Hey, fellow travelers, Juve here, and I am at a historical site here in Los Angeles that very few people know about. Right behind me, those are Army barracks, no longer in use as barracks, actually. A lot of artist locations have set up shop here. This place is part of the former Fort MacArthur, an Army installation that used to be here in Los Angeles. And actually, part of that installation is still in use down that hill here in San Pedro. It's part of the housing for Los Angeles Air Force Base, but it is still called Fort MacArthur. So one of the reasons I came here is because of its historical significance. But on top of that, this is the shooting spot of one of my favorite Hollywood movies, Sergeant Bilko, starring Steve Martin.
Lucky.
It's very windy, so you might not be able to hear my voice that well, but anything that doesn't come through, I'll voice over. But apparently, after some point after the Vietnam War, this installation was actually transferred over to the city of Los Angeles, and I'm very surprised how the city decided to keep a lot of the buildings and not tear them down. By the way, these buildings here in particular were built around 1941, before we entered World War II. So they look very different from other buildings that were built during the war. These buildings were made to house military units during peacetime, because we weren't involved with what was happening in Europe at the time. So actually, the U.S. military was looking at being around for quite some time without any conflicts. So these were built very, very differently. And as you can see, some of these buildings don't look too good. They're not. Some of these are not being well preserved. Actually, the city leases these to some art companies, art galleries and stuff like that. And part of the agreement does not include the upkeep of these buildings. So the only time these buildings actually get any type of maintenance, any worthy, mentionable maintenance, is whenever they shoot movies here. And they've shot a lot of different movies, not just Sergeant Bilko, and also TV shows like The A-Team. Those parts of The A-Team are actually shot further down that way, which we're going to go to later. But A Few Good Men was shot here. I totally blanked out. Private Benjamin, some of that was shot here. That was 80s, but more recently, there's been stuff like 24. Some of the stuff was shot here. So whenever that happens, it's like, of course, they'll go and paint. You can tell that building right there has been very well cared for. It was probably part of a production that they used it for and got painted to make it look better. And of course, some of the siding was also replaced in comparison to this. And so in Sergeant Bilko, there's a part where the colonel's driving Major Thorne to Sergeant Bilko's barracks, and they're driving right in front of this building, just like that Jeep right there, only in a Humvee. And they drive around, make their way over there, and the barracks are right there, that area. But this is the spot they drive by. That's the building, and the movie has a flag out there. See that building and this building right next to it, and this tree right here too, is still there. So by watching the movie Sergeant Bilko, I can see that they did in fact use some of these buildings for shooting inside. So it wasn't all sets. A lot of times external shots take place like on location, but when they go inside a building, that's actually a set in Hollywood. But a lot of these buildings were actually used for shooting the inside of the barracks themselves. And you can tell that because when you look out the window, you can see some of the buildings here in the background. Look at this. When I was in the Army, how much I would have loved for Fort MacArthur to still be in operation, so that I could ask for this to be my home unit right next to my home of Los Angeles. How awesome would that have been? Look at this here. And it looks like this section in between those buildings is actually still used by the city. You can tell because there's vehicles for the Recreations and Parks Department for the city of Los Angeles right there, and there, and there. So these must be like where they keep equipment and whatnot to maintain the other areas around here. It's very nice. Look at this. And this is what kind of looks like what would have been like a parade field, parade ground. So you can see the flagpole still has the eagle at the top. Now this is a pool that I found through the satellite imagery on Google Maps while I was looking at the site here. And it services basically this whole community here. And it's funny because it's really like right next to the Fort MacArthur barracks. It's kind of odd because it's so nice, and then these buildings are so old and like falling apart. But these buildings do have access to use the swimming pool, public swimming pool. You can go to their website. You find that online, and it's actually very affordable to get in. But of course, right now, because of the ongoing pandemic, it's been closed for a while. There's all these walking paths up here. This stuff, a lot of this stuff has to be new, because when I looked at the at Google Maps, looking at the satellite images of these, the close-ups, these weren't here. So it's nice to see that the city has taken its time to start putting all this up to really encourage people to come over and enjoy this nice historical part of LA that very few people know about. And here we go, this beautiful sign right next to the pool. Fort MacArthur Army. Huh? Sean. Huh? Huh? By the way, that's my roommate, Sean. Also former Army. This is the rookie pool. That's what the pool was called when it opened back in the 1940s, the rookie pool. So they kept the name. So fun little part. These little signs here give you a little bit of history of Fort MacArthur. You can tell back in 1943, that pool that we just saw right there was here. They just added that little building right there, added it, and but that was part of Fort MacArthur. And here we go. This is like the little history part of the place. When the land was appropriated for a military installation, it was named Fort MacArthur in 1914. After 2 years after General Arthur MacArthur passed away, Medal of Honor recipient, soldier. He was one of the longest-serving soldiers from the Civil War. After the Civil War, Medal of Honor recipient, father of a famous World War II general, Douglas MacArthur. He never achieved his dream of becoming the general in charge of all of the army. He got passed up for promotion, decided to retire. 2 years later, he passed away. But his son did become general of the army after General Dwight D. Eisenhower stepped down after the victory in Europe. Douglas MacArthur became the 5-star general of all Allied forces. There you go, Fort MacArthur in the 1940s. Very busy place. Something going on at the pool there. A lot of people, a lot of soldiers, and some sailors right there. overlooking the pool. Then from the 1950s to the 1970s. The 70s, that's when the post was decommissioned as a military installation, handed over to the city of LA. But the city of LA quickly handed over a small section of the post down that way, and it was taken over by the United States Air Force for housing for soldiers from Los Angeles Air Force Base, and it is still in operation under military control to this day. Alright, so I was talking a little earlier about the Air Force Base taking over a part of Fort MacArthur, and that's right down there. You can see the actually the parade fields used in Sergeant Bilko are right there. When Sergeant Bilko is playing golf and he hits one of the balls and it hits someone in the band playing, is right there. I was wondering where that was because I couldn't really tell from the satellite imagery, but being here by the pool, I'm looking the bay area right here. Look at that, by the way. Look at that beautiful view. But I was able to spot it right there. And that is the part of Fort MacArthur that is still in operation to this day. Alright, so this is one of the gun battery locations. They used to sit right here, be mounted, and the cannon be facing out towards the sea over there. But you can tell that this was a very different environment during World War II. The batteries were installed shortly after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. And this post, which was meant originally to just be a peace post, ended up becoming one of the fortified locations defending the city of Los Angeles. And that is a Coast Guard Marine Exchange location. Yeah, still running. Again, it's like some of these sections are still U.S. military owned, including that one right there. Alright, so these areas, I'm assuming this is where they kept the ordnance, stored the ordnance for the batteries. They used to sit here in case they needed to shoot down any enemy planes, or if they spotted any enemy water vessels off the coast. This is where they would fire from. Luckily, that didn't happen. Now, I have been talking about this earlier when I came in from that side, how a lot of these buildings have not been given the upkeep they deserve. And I saw that too in the Google Map images. But to my surprise, as I made my way further in, I've been noticing these buildings have recently been painted and given a very well needed hand over some little tender loving care, which I'm really glad to see that they're actually putting money into keeping these buildings in good working operating condition. They look beautiful, honestly. I'm glad. I'm very happy to see this. Alright, so that's where we were up there. Now we came down the hill. That's the chapel. That was here from still here from Fort MacArthur, and this area has been converted into a high school. It doesn't look that big. There's like a oil bird care center, so you know, whenever there's like an oil spill and stuff, this is where they bring them and care for them and stuff. Yeah, that's part of the museum. So I bet there's access to the museum if we go around that way. So, is that the building? I don't think so. So I'm looking at it, it's like, no, this isn't the, it's definitely, it was in an actual neighborhood for Sergeant Bilko, so that's definitely not the chapel from the movie. Although the inside might be, since they were shooting here, they might have shot inside. Here we go, these are more barracks from Fort MacArthur. feeling that these containers are left over from Fort MacArthur. And I remember when we used to deploy and put our weapons and things like these.
Let's find old abandoned MREs.
Old school sea rations. Yeah, wouldn't want to eat those. This is definitely new. This is an add-on, but it was built in a way to fit pre-existing buildings, so it wouldn't look too odd or stand out too much. That's cool. I like that. Yeah, let me get over here. The wind was blowing and the audio wouldn't come out. But this building right here, this is a perfect example of what those group of people up the hill are trying to do. They're trying to preserve our history and keep those buildings from ending up like this one. Look at that. So much neglect. Sad. Such a historical part of our city, of our country, and look at that.
Well, at least it's just this building.
Yeah. But then I'm wondering how many more buildings in the past suffer that fate. So we're in the middle of buildings that used to be barracks and other military installation type buildings that were later used as classrooms, but are no longer used as classrooms. You can tell right there, classroom. So they were part of the school district, and at some point, I'm sure they just built nicer buildings and just moved the classes over there. Oh my God, it's Bernie Sanders.
Up there.
Yes.
Yo, Bernie, where you at?
It's Bernie.
What are you doing here, man?
Bernie.
I thought you were supposed to be in D.C.
Bernie. So here it is, a better view of this other area, Fort MacArthur, which is now apparently owned by the school district here. So that's where we were. That's where they shoot a lot of the movies up there. And we drove down to there's where the chapel is, and this is like all part of the school district. What I take is this was part of the high school back in the day, and then they built a newer, nicer state-of-the-art. Because all these buildings, the majority, not all, the majority of these buildings are abandoned, with the exception of the newer ones that was built there. Made to look, design and structure of these older ones. You can tell, very nice football field there. Got a pool. That's, even I didn't go to a high school that nice. That's nice. That's a nice high school. So we just got done walking through these barracks back here, and I was trying to figure out what I seen these from, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. Then my old roommate figured it out when I sent them the picture. These barracks were featured in the Goldie Hawn movie Private Benjamin. Another one of the movies shot here at Fort MacArthur. So we're here at the lower area of Fort MacArthur, and this is where the Korean Friendship Bell is, right there. Right, just our luck. As I was making the video, the park ranger showed up and they're opening up the gate, so we'll be able to go in. All right. So this sign basically says no nothing. Yeah, we see roller skates. Is there like no kites? No, that's not on there. So that's good. We have the kites. This is just gorgeous. Nice, relaxing, nice cool breeze coming in. Perfect day for this. It's not hot, it's not cold, it's just right. And this is the Friendship Bell. Friendship Bell overlooking the Pacific Ocean was presented as a gift from the Peace of the Republic of Korea to the people of the United States of America on the occasion of the American Bicentennial Jubilee to further the friendship and trust between the two nations. July 4th, 1976. And this is the bell right here. Look at that. Yes. Who's that? Who's that? You're trying to ring that bell, aren't you? So, there's the Korean friendship bell. It's all around. Look at this. It's such a relaxing day. Some fresh air out here. And I know you're thinking I'm wearing the mask, but there's no one around. You can take it off and enjoy the fresh air for a little bit. People walk back on. Honestly, it's no biggie. I'm really enjoying being out here today. It's just so relaxing. I got a busy week coming up. So this is where the railgun would be at, and the reason being